Hey there, my friends. This is Andy. Oh, I'm a little short today. I wonder why my camera's so short. Sorry about that. Hey, we're going to be talking about why the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District Superintendent and Quintero, Anderson, and Buck want to continue to allow the teachers in the classroom to lie to you about all kinds of things about our U.S. history, about what's happening in the school district, about Leander Blades, about Todd Frazier. They want this to continue, and I have the receipts, and then I'll give you an example as to what it is they're doing and the reason why they don't want it to stop. And I'm going to do my best just to keep this fairly concise and on this one subject matter. I'm also going to end up probably repeating myself about some things that were in the other parts, but that is because some people maybe didn't see the first two parts, but I'm going to keep that to a minimum as much as I can. But all of these things are important to continue to fight what's going on in our school district. I just learned of another disturbing thing that's happened in the district. Hopefully at some point I'll be able to share that with you. I can't right now, but it's kind of like the Epstein files, is that we knew they were bad. And then when they got released, it was actually worse than you thought. And that's kind of the state of our school district. Enrollment is declining like crazy. I've heard of 2 more parents that have pulled their kids out this week. And then the previous week, I think there was 3 that I know that were pulling their kids out if they haven't done it already. And this is just going to continue because we have an out of control majority school board that is being ran by the teachers unions, who care less about education and more about politicization of everything. They just, the only thing they don't want to talk about is education, and that the students are failing to be able to read, write, and count. And that is not a discussion. Now, Quintero actually in the video I'm going to share with you mentions it, but it's just, she mentions it. That's mostly what liberals do, is they talk about things, but they never do anything about it. For decades, all the way back to when I was a kid, I remember the lies that would be told, in the campaign, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and you shouldn't have to live this way. And then they get in power, and they wouldn't change anything. They would just continue to say the same things over and over again, but yet nothing would change. And that has to do, obviously, with the things that are being said in the school district. And then they'll tell you things are happening that aren't happening. And it's a huge, big lie. And it's only to create anxiety and depression and emotion out of the students and out of certain parents who don't critically think, don't have common sense, and maybe don't even have the time to research to know what the truth is. We saw this in COVID. I sent them all kinds of studies during that period of time, that masking the kids was dangerous, that the masks were worthless, that distancing was nonsense, that when you're eating at a restaurant, that you could take the mask off, but as soon as you stood up, then suddenly you were in danger of catching the virus. I mean, so many things. Do you remember this? And none of it was true. I think Fauci even admitted he didn't have any proof that any of that worked. He just said it. And again, I just reemphasizing what was said. And so I'm still on the last school board meeting, because there was so much to be taken from that school board meeting that I couldn't do it all in one video. It would have been several hours long. But we're going to start with the video of where Leandra is talking about the section of the resolution that, let's see if I can find it. I don't have my glasses on. Oh, wrong one. Hold on, that's for later. So there's a section down here that says, whereas whereas educators and administrations rely on cooperation with hold on. Got to find the right one. Oh, here it is. Be it further resolved that the school board affirms classrooms are places for education. Shocking, because they're not now. Not political activism, and that the district communications and materials provided to students shall prioritize academic instruction, safety, and age-appropriate content. Now, Quintero, Anderson, and Buck wanted that removed from the resolution. And it is my belief that, knowing that ICE has never gone onto any school campus in the United States, and especially not PYLUSD, They're not currently doing it at all, and it's not going to happen in the future. They know this because DHS has a policy against going on a school campus without a court order or a warrant. It's already in place in the state, and the policy that was passed 5-0 also said the same thing. So there's no chance ever, because it's never happened, but also now especially there's a policy that kind of reaffirms that the same thing. So they just keep repeating the same thing, but yet people have been told that it's happening, that it's dangerous, that kids are going to be drugged out of classrooms, and they're just saying stuff that's not true to create this idea that something is happening. We know that politics are being pushed on our students and our children in the classroom, and indoctrination is happening, and everything but education is happening in our schools. We know this. We've been trying to get it stopped, and yet here we have a portion of this resolution that said, can we just stop all that and go back to actually teaching kids how to read, write, count, and think? And Quintero, Anderson, and Buck, and the superintendent said, no, we want them to teach, to not teach, but to only push politics and indoctrination. That's what we want. And I'm going to show you why in just a minute, and we have the proof. So here's the video portion that I think is most relevant to, trying to think and push the button at the same time, relevant to what it is I'm talking about. So Leander Blades is talking about not having politics. And I want you to notice two things. Number one, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more after the video, but Quintero seems to think she's an employee. She thought that the previous school board meeting, and she repeats it again. You would have thought between the previous school board meeting that somebody would have spoke to her and says, you're not an employee, you're an elected official. Those are two different things. But she repeats it. Nobody spoke to her. Nobody said for her not to say stupid things, nothing like that. She continued with this idea that she's an employee. But she said, why is it that in the school board meetings we can talk politics? Number one, it's really the only appropriate place if you're going to do it in the school district is in the school board, because there's 5 elected officials in there. And at some point you're going to have to come across something like this, and that's where you need to talk about getting it out. That's where you need to talk about the issues that teachers are doing that we don't want them to do. And so she seems to think that the school board room is the same as a classroom. She doesn't understand that the classroom is for education. This is somebody that's sitting on the school board that doesn't know the difference between a classroom and a school board room. And so here's the video, and she says it out loud, and I just want to make sure that you can hear it as opposed to me just saying it. So here's Trisha Quintero in all her glory, and Leander trying to set her straight.
And talk about stuff that's not part of our district curriculum and politicize law enforcement, speak down to law enforcement. He called ICE and law enforcement murderers.
So to clarify, I agree, our reading and math scores do need improvement, but also up here as a board, that's what we need to be emphasizing, not our political. Why is it okay that we can bring politics into the boardroom, but teachers
not bringing
teachers aren't allowed to as well?
So this is very different. In a classroom, teachers are paid. They are paid employees.
We are too.
No, we're not employees. We are not employees. You're an elected official.
Do you receive a paycheck?
You receive a stipend. City councils receive a stipend.
So a coach is not an employee? A walk-on coach is not an employee because they receive a stipend?
Did a coach have to go through an election? You're an elected official.
But it doesn't matter. You're still an employee and a representative of the school district.
Oh, geez. So
I feel Leandra's frustration. This is wild, right? So you got to take two things out of there that I just told you, that she seems to think there's no difference between the boardroom and the classroom. And she also thinks that she's an employee. And so this is why this district is a mess. We have incompetent people that are on the school board that were elected by a group of people, the teachers union, and pushed through and financed by the teachers union, who they can control because they are not smart enough to think on their own. They're not smart enough to critically think, especially when they're on the dais. And that is why they're in that in that place. That's why they got elected. So why is this important to know? Is because this is what is happening in our classrooms. That the teachers' unions, the activists are pushing narratives out to teachers that the teachers then push out to the students. And here is I just got a hold of this, an administrator within the district sent this to me. And it is an example of what is being done. And I'm going to just share 2 screenshots from it because the other parts are just more nonsense, but these are the most relevant parts of it. And this is a message that was sent to the teachers to make sure and come to the school board meeting and fight because Leander Blades, who's a murderer, is trying to make sure that ICE is going to come on the campuses and kidnap children. This is, again, I just remind you all that when you think about this, that you understand that these are grown adults who are tasked with educating our kids, who are pushing propaganda and lies, knowing that they are lies, so that they can motivate kids to walk out of school during class time and put themselves in danger by running on a protest based on the lies that they told them. And they don't care. So here is the message that went out. Oh my gosh, I don't have it so far away and I can't even read it with glasses on. So I apologize. Let me see if I can zoom in here. There we go. And so this message goes out, Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District Board Meeting, February 10th. And then it says Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District, PYLUSD Board Member Leander Blades, a MAGA firebrand who marched on the Capitol and once shot and killed a homeless man, is at it again. This Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, at the PYLUSD board meeting, Leander will introduce a new proposal resolution that calls for ICE. Calls for ICE. ICE agents to have access to our students in private areas of schools. In other words, the classroom, buses, and offices during school hours to make arrests without judicial warrants. This is against California state law. And then it goes on. Again, this is, it's not true. And then it goes on to say, tell them to update, let's make sure I get to another relevant place here. Down at the bottom where the bullets are, tell them to vote no on Blades' resolution, as it violates the law and may open the district to expensive legal challenges. Nothing that was in that resolution did that. Tell the PYLUSD board that we do not want ICE in our classrooms and our buses. Tell them that schools are safe places. So do you see what's being written there? This is a message that was sent out to teachers that are being told to tell other teachers and tell students these things. That Leander Blades is a murderer, that she killed a homeless man. Number one, Leander Blades was a police officer at the time. She was confronted by a man who was armed with a knife, who was attacking her, and she shot in self-defense. Officers do it all the time. We were given a class in the police academy, and then again during briefings during our time as a police officer. There's this video. It's very old, and hopefully they've updated it. But it's called Edged Weapons, and the Edged Weapons video teaches us that a person with a knife can stab and kill us before we can even get our gun out of our holster. And it teaches us how to defend from somebody with a knife. And so it shouldn't, most of you that are listening have common sense and understand these things. Just like a car can kill somebody, just like a gun can kill somebody when it's used as a weapon, a knife on somebody. Again, we're taught over and over again that somebody armed with a knife can get to you and stab you before you have an opportunity to pull your weapon out and kill them. So be prepared and be ready and know the time distance issue that's related to somebody with an edged weapon. And this is silliness that we have to explain this. So, but you see how in this email that went out to teachers within the school district, who says in there to make sure and tell teachers and students that she's a murderer. And then it goes on to tell other lies, that this resolution invites ICE without a warrant on the school. The resolution did not say that. And again, I remind you that when the actual resolution was read, the room went silent because the people that were brainwashed into thinking that that's what it was going to say, I believe were shocked and waiting for the moment where the paragraph would say, whereas we want ICE to come on and kidnap our kids. And when that wasn't in there, they were like, oh, wait a minute, I thought you told me that this other thing was in there, or in their brains. They were thinking, that's not what I wrote my whole speech about. My whole speech was about that Leander Blades was going to invite ICE onto the campus and kidnap children and pulling them out of the classroom by their hair. You told me that was going to be on there. This email is telling people that these things are going to be on there, which they're not on there. But going back to that video of Trisha Quintero, now do you see why? That she fought and had that part taken out of the resolution because they want to continue this ability to send these messages out to the teachers to talk to the children and the students about things that are untrue and to attack the people that the teachers unions don't like. I love that the president of the APLE got up and she was either talking about me or Leander or both of us and saying that there's people that are obsessed with the teachers union. And I'm not obsessed with the teachers union. I despise the teachers union, and they are a scourge on our children. And that goes from everybody, all the unions from the APLE to the CTA to the NEA, the AFL. I think there might be another initial there, that they are a cabal of liberal Democrats who really use this organization as a PAC to raise money for other people that think the way that they do, so they can push for these opportunities to make sure that things like that portion of the resolution do not get into a resolution, do not get into a policy, because they want to have the ability to continue to indoctrinate our kids. And then they hire people like Quintero, Buck, and Anderson, who should not even run a lemonade stand, because they wouldn't know how to count back the change if somebody gave them cash. They wouldn't know how to explain what the ingredients are of lemonade to somebody who asked. But we have them in a position on the school board where they don't know that they're not employees. I remind you, we used to have a superintendent that worked here not too long ago. I think it was 3 superintendents ago, who was a U.S. history teacher at some point in his career, who did not know that the United States was a constitutional republic. He thought we were a democracy, and he was convinced. And in the middle of a school board meeting, he was saying, no, we're a democracy. And people would say, no, we're not. We're a constitutional republic. He goes, no, we're not. We're a democracy. And they're having this actual argument. And he was arguing that just pointing out the fact that he is also the problem. How can you educate children when the people running the education system aren't educated, don't have common sense, don't know how to critically think? It's because the teachers union can now use them in the way that Quintero was used to fight against having that part of the resolution taken out. So they can put this type of material out to teachers and fight for the need to be able to politicize the classrooms and indoctrinate the classrooms, the children in the classrooms, so that they will have them march for their benefit, all for a lie. One of the signs, I saw the small group of kids that came out of the classrooms. I think maybe our podcasts over the last couple of days have had some impact, because it was a lot smaller group of children out there with these signs. But I love the signs that say ICE out. And I was driving around with my sons, who I pulled out of school on that particular day because I didn't want them to get caught up in all the madness. But I said to them, I said, do you see that sign that says ICE out? And they go, yeah. And my one of my sons said, ICE out of where? He said, exactly. Do you know that ICE has not been in Yorba Linda, yet these kids at Yorba Linda High School are carrying on signs, ICE out? ICE has not ever been, I don't think, I don't believe that many people that work for ICE wouldn't even know where Yorba Linda is. They may not even know where Brea is, because ICE has not been in Brea. The only reason that maybe they know where Placentia is because ICE was chasing a wanted suspect who was armed, who was an illegal immigrant that had committed a crime, an additional crime in addition to coming into the country illegally. and he fled in his car. And then in fleeing, he fled into Placentia and ran into a Placentia resident and killed him. And then they chased the man into the neighborhood and were able to catch him and disarm him and take him into custody. Thank God. Thank God for ICE, thank God for Border Patrol, and thank God for Fullerton Police Department that they caught this man before he went into a house and took hostages, or God forbid, ran into the school to take hostages. Could you imagine if he did? Could you imagine if ICE, in chasing this guy, the guy ran onto the campus of one of our schools, and then you'd have a secretary at the front office where the ICE agent maybe would have to come through, or one of the gates, and one of the teacher or somebody would say, no, you can't come on and catch that armed criminal because we want ICE out. You imagine? This is what they want. This is Quintero, Anderson, Buck, and the superintendent. This is what they want. They based on not wanting this resolution to go through, and the people that were speaking, this is kind of the nonsense that you're speaking. Again, I remind you of Uvalde, Texas, where the shooter went into a school and was killing children, shooting them, and local law enforcement stood by picking their nose and washing their hands with handy wipes while the gunman was shooting children. But who came in there and saved the day? It was ICE and Border Patrol SRT, who when they arrived, they went in immediately and engaged with the suspect and took him into custody. And again, I just want to ask you, when that's happening, do you want a teacher or a secretary standing in front of them and stopping them from coming in to save children's lives? Because that's essentially what the people speaking and the school board majority and the superintendent seemingly want. They don't want federal agents to go onto the campus. If a Uvalde type situation happened here and Border Patrol and ICE happened to be in the area and their SRT was available, they're going to stop them from coming in there and saving children's lives. But you can hear from Quintero's own words that's seemingly is exactly what she wants. And how does this affect the community? Well, I'm going to play another video. I'm just going to play these videos of, there were 50 people that are suffering from this unfortunate syndrome that I brought up before. I'm just going to post a little screenshot of what it's called. It's called shared psychosis, folie à deux, where people begin to believe the lie that they've been told, and it becomes part of their life, and they begin to believe the lie, and it affects their memory into the point where they actually now have a thought process that it's happening and happened. And I'm going to share a woman who gave a speech, who this is who we have to pray for. This woman who appears to be have a lot of anxiety about it and depression about it, that she believes it. She believes the lie that she's been told, that ICE is running her out there willy-nilly and running onto our school campuses and taking children into custody, even in pre-K. This is what she believes, but she's been taught this. She's been brainwashed to think this because of all the things that are going on in social media, what's happening in Yorba Linda Moms and PYL Buzz, and they're pushing these lies, and it begins to affect people who, again, I don't know if they're just too busy. I don't know if they are vulnerable to this kind of thought process, but I want you to hear this woman speak, and you can hear that she truly believes that this is happening.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Villavicencio. I grew up here in Yorba Linda. I went through all my grade schools. I have to say, I was very disappointed to hear that you guys were going to be, makes me very emotional. But partnering with ICE and allowing that, my daughter is starting her TK, and she loves her school. But we have to do better in teaching our kids to love one another. Allowing ICE into our schools will traumatize their kids and normalize this kind of cruelty. This is in fact not normal and should not be allowed in our schools. We must vote no on 2525. We have to. This is not kind. Thank you.
I was just reading a comment from a teacher at PYLUSD, and he says, my history department met Friday and all agreed that politics had no place in our classroom at Orange County School of Computer Science. Thank you. I know who that is. He doesn't have his name on there, so I'm not going to say it. But thank you for doing that. One of my kids goes to OCSCS. And that's leadership. That is somebody with common sense. That's somebody that can critically think and understand that he's going to teach history. Because that's what we pay him to do. Because you know why? He is an employee. Unlike Quintero, who is an elected official, not an employee. Somebody really needs to get a hold of Trisha Quintero and explain the difference. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that people see this and go, what kind of people are on your school board? What is going on? I know, I feel the pain of the people that have said this to me. But that's leadership in a classroom. That's a teacher that takes leadership of a classroom. And then I don't know if he called the meeting between the history department or not, but whoever did, that's additional leadership. And they said there, this has to stop, because that's not what we're paid to do. And we'll stand up against the teachers union, because the teachers union doesn't like that. And so surely the teachers union is going to come down on the teachers that surround this particular teacher and say, you need to shut him up. You need to stop that. You need to shame him. You need to shun him in the break room. You need to do all, because this is what happens. I have had so many teachers say, if you speak up against the teachers union, or in a manner of saying something like there's only two genders, or if you say that, if you go on social media and like one of my videos, the teachers union will direct the teachers to make sure and make that teacher's life miserable because we saw that he liked one of Andy's videos, or he agreed with, or she agreed with Leander Blades, or what have you. Same thing happens in Yorba Linda Moms. When the leadership that runs that particular group sees that you like one of our videos, or you say something to the positive of something that we may have said, or something towards even President Trump, they kick you out of the group. And so I so much appreciate a teacher that's willing to look at common sense and critically think and say, it doesn't take that much, really. It doesn't take that much to say, you know what, I was hired as a teacher. You know what I should probably do is I should probably teach. I think that's pretty simple. If I'm a math teacher, you know what I should do? I should probably teach math and not repeat what is written on these messages that I'm supposed to be handing out that says something like this. Board member Leander Blades, a MAGA firebrand who marched on the Capitol and once shot and killed a homeless man. Uh-oh, I can't get my screen to come back. There we go. Sorry, I read that slow because I want to make sure you heard every word. This was put out by a grown adult to the teachers to spread the word to other teachers and to students in every school in our district. Trisha Quintero on Tuesday follows the commands of the teachers union, who probably put this out. I'm not sure who actually put it out, but we can pretty much guess. And then she followed the command to make sure and take out that line that says politics will not be pushed in our classrooms. We need the teachers to teach. Take out that part, because we want to continue to be able to do that to all the kids. Wow. All right. Like I said, I'm going to actually hold to my word because we're coming up on 30 minutes. Just understand this part of it and why we're in the position we are today, where parents are pulling their kids out left and right. Again, I've heard a number of them being taken out already. We have other things that are happening in the school district that I hope at some point I can tell you about, that just can't tell you right now, that are even more horrific than what I just told you. And so, just as always, I tell you to show up at the school board meetings. You can see this stuff for yourself. You can get up and speak. As a matter of fact, I beg you to do it, because what they do, what the teachers union does, is they put out these like bat signals, but something more horrendous, devil signals to Cal State Fullerton, Chapman University, and others to come to the school board meetings and speak, even though they don't live in the district, even though they don't have kids, even though they have really no business being at the school board meeting, but they flood the school board room with so many people that now other people have to sit outside. And this is what they do. So I would beg you to come, whether you have to sit outside or not, they will allow you to come in and speak, that you do that. And I'm just calling on all men. There were a lot of men, and I really appreciate all the men that showed up at the last school board meeting. We had some lunatic, coward men who also stood up. But we need more brave men that want to protect their daughters and protect their young men from this nonsense that's going on in our school district at this point. All right, as promised, I'm going to keep it to this one subject and make sure and share this video out to as many people as you can so they can hear Quintero's own words saying that she thinks that classrooms should be filled with indoctrination and politics instead of teaching. That's more important to her than education. All right, my friends, that's it. We'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.